On October 31st, 1978, he came home. Since that fateful night, Michael Myers has terrified horror audiences around the globe. Some entries have brought us the best kind of terror slashers can provide, and some, well, they left us terrified because of how cringy they were.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
It's time to celebrate the highs and the lows, the great movies and the Rob Zombie ones. Well, you get the idea. Let's rank every Halloween film from worst to best. Remember, these are my opinions, not a definitive list. Let me know in comments what you think the order should be, though. There are so many things to dislike about Halloween Resurrection. Let's address the obvious one right away. This film took the great ending of Halloween H2O and completely discarded it within the first 10 minutes of the film. Jamie Lee Curtis agreed to do H2O partly because it brought closure at the end, with Laurie Strode finally killing Michael Myers. But the joke was on us. Mustafa Akkad had it in the contract that Michael Myers could never be killed off, because we gotta protect that cash cow. So the first 10 minutes of Resurrection was filmed to retcon the ending of H2O. Retconning in multiple timelines are nothing new to the Halloween franchise, but this one took what was a great moment and made it meaningless. On top of that, Laurie Strode is killed off in the first 10 minutes too. We definitely weren't off to a good start, but the rest of the film is somehow worse. I know slashers rarely age incredibly well, but Resurrection's especially bad in that regard. The movie seeks to capitalize on the web show craze of the aughts by having Busta Rhymes' character running a company called Dangertainment, which is hosting a live show in the Myers home on Halloween night, in which college-age people will explore the home. What they don't know is that Michael Myers is there waiting for them, and they start to die off one by one. The characters in Resurrection are about as stereotyped as Halloween gets, and the Busta Rhymes character is shoehorned in. Everything else just feels really out of place for a Halloween movie. It's like this was another movie that they slapped a Michael Myers skin onto. But it did bring us the single worst moment in the entire franchise, at least in my opinion.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
I just watched Rob Zombie's Halloween again, and honestly, I moved down the list as a result. Do people actually talk like Rob Zombie's dialogue and characters suggest? Is that normal? No one I know does. Yet in this film, everything is crude and vulgar.
Naughty boy.
I hate you.
And I hate you too. You see this? As soon as this heals, I'm gonna break it again on your fucking face.
I know.
Nothing wrong with swearing in movies, especially horror movies. But it feels like it's just there to be there in this reboot. But more than that, this movie reminds me of my biggest issue with the new Strangers films. That's that sometimes not knowing the backstory or motivation of a villain is scarier than having it all laid out for us. Because You Were Home is infinitely more terrifying than knowing all of their reasons. In Halloween, Michael Myers being a faceless, soulless shape adds to the terror. It doesn't leave questions begging to be answered. The terror you don't understand is far, far worse than the one that can be explained. In the backstory, Rob Zombie paints Myers to evolve like any other serial killer. That's probably realistic, but this is the movies. I want Michael Myers to be special. For there to be no reason at all. We have reasons in Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. Let this one be what it is. It's not all bad though. Rob Zombie trademark is delivering great kill scenes, and he doesn't disappoint in this film. The satanic panic-induced restraint of the 1980s is absolutely nowhere to be found here. The kill scenes are a lot of fun and are uber violent and visceral. That makes up for the fact that it is at times a shot-for-shot remake of the original in the second half. The seeds of the Cult of Thorn are planted in Halloween 5, and we see them in full power here in Halloween 6. The Thorn trilogy isn't terrible in my opinion, it just isn't great either. Especially in The Revenge of Michael Myers, where it sometimes dips into the realm of utter nonsense. Paul Rudd is great as Tommy Doyle, and it's a nice on-screen introduction to the future Marvel star. But you can tell from the beginning that this film suffered from way too many people giving their input on changes and direction. When it's easy to tell that there were probably multiple reshoots and rewrites, that's kind of a problem. The cult controlling Michael Myers leads into the 1990s conspiracy-friendly time. It was at the end of the Cold War, and the enemy now lived in the shadows, controlling everything rather than being right in front of you. This film reflects that sentiment. Donald Pleasance is hamming it up in full-on I don't give enough mode as Loomis at this point, but it's still fun. I can actually rewatch this movie just about any time, but both it and its predecessor lack some of the coherence of the other movies in the franchise. Halloween 5 is another time when Halloween writers and producers decided to undo the end of the previous film completely. At the end of Halloween 4, we see the evil that inhabited Michael Myers passed on to Jamie, his niece. It opened the door for a lot of really interesting things to happen in Halloween 5, as we learn more about how Jamie must confront the evil that has taken her, right? Nah. Instead, we abandoned that story and had Jamie hospitalized and not speaking. Really, though, the issue here is twofold. First is the pacing in the movie. The movie plods along with no real direction, and lame additions like the idiot cops really don't help. Second, Halloween 5 just isn't that scary. There's little tension and no great kills, which are a hallmark of the series. At times, Halloween 5 is just plain boring, which is a really bad thing to say about a movie with a short runtime. Watching Loomis' descent into madness from his obsession with Michael Myers is pretty fun, though. There, I said something good about the movie. The second effort by Rob Zombie was significantly better than the first, and 2009's Halloween 2 is actually kind of fun. The kills are ultra-violent, and everything good about a Rob Zombie film is present here. The bad news is that everything bad about a Rob Zombie film is still here too. It just overshadows the good stuff a little less than the original. It just overshadows the good stuff a little less than the first film. Zombie's no longer constrained by doing a half remake of the 1978 original here, so he can unleash his own version of the character. The movie's all about stripping down the character of Michael Myers to see what's underneath. Even his mask is getting partially torn off over the course of the film. While the movie is better than the first one by this director, the insistence on a character study for a character that's much better as faceless and simply evil personified is what keeps it lower on my list. Okay, I know, Halloween Kills gets a ton of hate, and some of it is definitely warranted. But let's talk about the things that I actually like first. Ultimately, the David Gordon Green trilogy is about how fear and hatred are the perfect breeding ground for things like isolationism, fascism, and extremism, and how these things can become such a part of a person's or community's DNA that they become not a thing they're experiencing, but a part of their very identity. That part, to me at least, is really interesting, and we see the mob mentality that a fascist-like fear and hatred can create inside of Halloween Kills. That part is pretty great. Also, I love the kill scenes in this film. That's why it's as high on this list as it is, but it's not higher for a multitude of reasons. Kills feels like the creators wanted to do a trilogy and knew how they wanted to start it, and how they wanted to end it, but needed to throw something out there in the middle just to get us to Halloween Ends. At its best, Halloween Kills is a fun slasher. At its worst, though, it feels a lot like a placeholder. And sadly, there's more placeholder than fun here. A big part of that is that Laurie Strode is immobilized for most of the film. After Kills immediately undid the great ending in the first movie, a Halloween trademark by this point, taking Laurie off of her feet and out of the story isn't giving fans a payoff on why they came to the theater. At least we get one more showdown in Halloween Ends, but this one feels too aimless at times. As a slasher film, Halloween 2 is fine. It's even fun. As we learn, Loomis shot Michael Myers 6 times at the end of the first movie, but he got up and walked away.
Very far. Come on. I shot him 6 times! This guy!
Halloween 2 picks up immediately after the end of the first film. Ben Tramer, who Laurie had a huge crush on just hours earlier, is killed in an accident when a cop thought he was Michael Myers, but Laurie moves on pretty quickly because she's now talking to Jimmy, an EMT at the hospital Laurie was taken to. Michael overhears someone in town say that Laurie was taken to Haddonfield Memorial, so he heads there too. But why does Michael want to kill Laurie specifically so badly? Is she just the one who got away? Sadly, there's more to it than that, and it's the reason Halloween 2 is the biggest misstep in the franchise, at least in my opinion, and the biggest reason it's not higher on this list. John Carpenter did not want to make a sequel to Halloween, but the success of other slashers like Friday the 13th got the powers that be to put enough pressure on him to get it done. In his annoyance, he wrote in the script that Laurie was the estranged sister of Michael Myers. This one move made Michael Myers infinitely less scary. Instead of being a merciless killer with no clear motive, just evil itself, Myers was now revealed to be wanting to finish off the rest of his family. It's a mistake that would bog down the franchise for years, and one that Carpenter has stated repeatedly that he regrets. Alright, count me in the minority here, but I like Halloween Ends. It's definitely not perfect, but in a genre where fans are always hating on franchises for giving us more of the same, Halloween Ends tried something different. I give it some credit for that. The idea that evil and hate can be passed through generations and can be created through isolation is pretty interesting. An accident early in the film leaves Corey shunned by the community in Haddonfield. The more isolated he becomes, the more susceptible he is to being pulled into extremism. He finds Michael Myers, now in his 60s, and Myers passes evil on to Corey. Seeing Corey's descent during this weird apprenticeship to Michael in the third film is a fun thing to explore. I know a lot of fans just wanted more Michael Myers, and that's fair. But we can't complain that we never get anything new, then complain when we get something new. Well, we can, it's the internet, and we did, but it's a little stupid in my opinion. The final showdown between Michael and Laurie wasn't the best from a physical standpoint, but it felt like the most personal conflict between the two. It also felt like they both knew there was finality to this specific clash. That gave it a visceral nature that helped make this film stand out, at least for me. You probably either love Halloween 3 or you hate it. Season of the Witch is also known as the one without Michael Myers. It was Halloween's attempt to launch an anthology franchise after the explosive conclusion to Halloween 2 left both Michael Myers and Loomis presumed dead. I get it if some of the fans are disappointed that Michael Myers isn't in the film. But again, trying new things is to be commended, even if they don't always work. Except in Halloween 3, they mostly did work. What we got is a story about corporate greed, consumerism, and ambition. Plus, the Super Shamrock jingle is pretty great.
Silver Shamrock, 8 days to Halloween, 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 8 days to Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
If you enjoy the VHS movies Shudder puts out every year, then you'll almost certainly like Halloween 3. When I watched VHS Halloween recently, I immediately thought of Season of the Witch and how VHS Halloween is basically what the Halloween franchise was trying to become. Halloween H2O is my guilty pleasure Halloween movie. If you think it's overly corny, you're definitely not wrong, but I still love it. It's also the first Halloween movie I saw when it came out, so there's a bit of nostalgia helping here too. We get the band back together here. Laurie Strode returns to the series as we write off Halloween 3 through 6 as if they'd never happened. Laurie's now the head of a boarding school in California, and she has a teenage son played by a young Josh Hartnett. It's 20 years later, and Laurie is still haunted by what happened on that night in 1978. Michael Myers gets out again and finds his way to the school. This sets up what was sold as a final showdown between Michael and Laurie that really worked because of the abrupt and violent ending. Laurie prevails and seems finally ready to move on with her life. In reality, Jamie Lee Curtis only agreed to come back if Michael Myers died at the end of H2O. She wanted finality and closure to the franchise and her role in it, but little did she know that pesky contract stipulation existed preventing Myers from being killed off, so instead we get Halloween Resurrection. Halloween 4 takes place 10 years after the events of the original Halloween, and Laurie Strode has been killed off camera. She leaves a daughter, Jamie, behind, though, and Michael learns of her existence when he breaks out yet again on Halloween. But wait, I thought Michael died at the end of Halloween 2. Well, we thought wrong. That massive explosion in the hospital only left Myers burned, and Loomis escaped with only half his face burned and scarred. The look represents the two sides of Loomis as Donald Pleasance's character descends further into madness and obsession. But despite that, Halloween 4 is a whole lot of fun. It's a return to form for the franchise, and it's bolstered by an ending that shows Jamie having inherited the evil from Michael. That moment set up so many possibilities for the next movie, each and every one of which was completely squandered. It's too bad, too, because Halloween 4 has a lot of great kills, a fun atmosphere, and even more promise for the future. The first film of the David Gordon Green trilogy is, in my opinion, excellent. It's been 40 years since that awful night in Haddonfield, and Laurie Strode is still showing the effects. She now lives in isolation, driven by fear and obsession. She's adopted a lifestyle not dissimilar to Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, and she reflects what Loomis became in 4, 5, and 6, and that has driven her family away from her. If you're wondering what happened to the boarding school from H2O, well, it didn't exist. The David Gordon Green trilogy is a direct sequel to Halloween 1, and that's it. Everything else, including its brother-sister storyline from Halloween 2, is not considered canon in this film. Michael's on the loose again, and he's once again out to find Laurie Strode, but Laurie's ready for him, having turned her home into a giant trap for the Shape. The third act is worth the price of admission, and the ending of the film actually gives a fun sense of closure if they had decided to let it end there. But this is Halloween, so come on. It's going to be difficult for any Halloween film to ever top the 1978 original. Halloween was made on a tiny budget and grossed over $70 million in theaters. The pacing and tension in Halloween are brilliant, and this is John Carpenter's signature film. Some fans might feel like it's slow, especially if they're among the youngest generations, and I can get that. It's not paced like some of the slashers we get today. The kill scenes don't even really begin until the second half of the movie. But the build-up and pacing are similar to The Exorcist just 5 years earlier than this one, taking its time and setting up the stakes so the payoff would be well worth it. There's not much else to say about Halloween that hasn't already been said. The movie's not just the best in the series, but it would be on an essential list of horror movies that I'd recommend for anyone getting into the genre. It doesn't have the glamour of some of today's horror films, but it set the standard for slashers, and movies are still trying to emulate it almost 50 years later. So what's your favorite Halloween film? Let us know in comments. Remember to drop a like on the video and subscribe for a lot more on horror movies and characters. Have a great day, everybody, and stay strange out there.